The rise and fall of the Roman Empire. The legend of Romulus and Remus. Rome wasn't born of peace, it was born of fratricide. The legend says it began with Romulus and Remus, twins abandoned to die and suckled by a wolf. When they fought over where to build their city, Romulus killed his brother, setting a grim precedent. For Rome to thrive, blood had to be spilled. This story tells us everything about the Roman psyche. They believed they were descendants of Mars, the god of war, and from day one, they were a culture that valued survival, walls, and the idea that the state was more important than family. The overthrow of kings. For 200 years, Rome was ruled by kings, many of them Etruscan tyrants. The turning point came in 509 BC with the overthrow of Tarquin the Proud. After a noblewoman named Lucretia was wronged by the king's son, the Roman people rose up, not just to kill a man, but to kill an idea. They swore an oath that Rome would never be ruled by a king again. They established the Residential Publica, the public affair. This birthed the Senate and a complex system of elected officials designed so that no one person could ever hold total power. The Roman legionary. But a republic needs a shield, and that shield was the Roman legionary. In the beginning, these were farmer soldiers, but they evolved into a professional killing machine. Carrying the short sword, the javelin, and the heavy shield, they weren't just fighters, they were engineers. They built roads and forts everywhere they went. The legion wasn't just an army, it was the tool that Romanized the wild frontiers of Europe, turning tribal lands into organized provinces. Hannibal at the gates. Rome's greatest external test was Carthage. Hannibal Barca crossed the Alps with elephants and wiped out entire Roman armies, killing 50,000 men in a single day at the Battle of Cannae. Any other nation would have surrendered, but Rome didn't. They simply raised more armies. Their refusal to accept defeat, even when the enemy was at their front door, is what allowed them to eventually burn Carthage to the ground and salt the earth, ensuring they were the undisputed masters of the Mediterranean. SPQR, the power structure. The system that governed this growing empire was called SPQR, the Senate and the people of Rome. It was a mixed constitution with consuls, the Senate, and the tribunes. It was designed for balance, but it relied on the way of the ancestors. When politicians stopped following unwritten rules and started seeking personal glory, the republic began to rot. The Gracchi brothers. By 133 BC, the gap between the rich and the poor became a chasm. When the Gracchi brothers tried to redistribute land to the poor, the Senate responded with murder in the streets. This was the first time political blood was spilled in the Republic, proving that the Senate would rather kill than compromise. Sulle proscriptions. Then came the era of the strong men. Generals like Sulla realized that the person with the most loyal soldiers, not the most votes, truly ruled. Sulla marched his own army into Rome and created proscription lists, posting the names of his enemies in the forum to be executed. The Republic was now a dead man walking. The first triumvirate. This paved the way for the first triumvirate, a secret alliance between Julius Caesar, Pompey the Great, and the billionaire Crassus. They bypassed the law to get what they wanted, creating a three-headed monster that eventually tore itself apart. Crossing the Rubicon, Julius Caesar became the ultimate symbol of this collapse. Ordered to give up his army and face trial, he stood at the Rubicon River in 49 BC. Crossing it with an army was high treason. He famously uttered, "The die is cast," and marched on Rome. He won the civil war and declared himself dictator for life, effectively ending the public affair. The Ides of March. On March 15, 44 BC, a group of senators stabbed Caesar 23 times, believing they were liberators saving the Republic. They were wrong. They had a plan to kill Caesar, but no plan for what came next. His death triggered a final, brutal civil war that would destroy the Senate's power forever. Augustus, the first emperor. Octavian, Caesar's heir, won the final war against Mark Antony and Cleopatra. He was a genius of propaganda. He didn't call himself a king. He called himself first citizen. He kept the Senate but held all the strings. He transformed Rome from a city of brick to a city of marble and ushered in the Pax Romana, 2 centuries of relative peace. The Pax Romana. For 200 years, the Mediterranean world flourished. Trade reached from Britain to Egypt. This wasn't peace in the modern sense. It was peace enforced by the sword. If you paid your taxes and didn't rebel, Rome let you keep your gods and your culture. It was the golden age of the ancient world. Roman engineering. Rome's real power wasn't just the sword, it was the engineer. They mastered the arch and invented concrete that could set underwater. Aqueducts brought millions of gallons of fresh water into the city, allowing for public baths and fountains. Hygiene and infrastructure were the soft power that made people want to be Roman. Nero and decadence. Not every emperor was a builder. Nero became the symbol of Roman decadence, allegedly fiddling while Rome burned and using Christians as human torches. Nero showed the flaw in the imperial system. What happens when the most powerful man in the world is a narcissist or a madman? The Colosseum. To keep the masses quiet, the Flavian emperors built the Colosseum, a gift of bread and circuses. They realized that if the people had full bellies and violent entertainment, they wouldn't care about their lost political rights. It was the ultimate tool of social control. Pompeii, frozen in time. In 79 AD, Mount Vesuvius erupted, burying Pompeii in ash. It was a tragedy, but for historians, it was a miracle. It froze a Roman city in time. Through Pompeii, we see the graffiti, the fast food stalls, and the villas, reminding us that Romans were real, vibrant people. Trajan's peak. The empire reached its territorial peak under Trajan in 117 AD, stretching from the Persian Gulf to the Scottish border. Under his rule, one law governed millions across 3 continents. He was known as the best ruler. Hadrian's Wall. Trajan's successor, Hadrian, realized it was too big to manage and began building walls to define the limits of the civilized world. He shifted Rome from an offensive culture to a defensive one, focusing on stability over expansion. Marcus Aurelius. The last of the 5 good emperors, Marcus Aurelius spent his life fighting Germanic tribes while writing Stoic philosophy. He believed in duty over desire, but his death in 180 AD marked the end of the Golden Age. He left the empire to his son, Commodus, whose incompetence triggered a century of chaos. Daily life in Rome. Life for the average person was a struggle in crowded, fire-prone apartments called insulae. Life was loud, smelly, and dangerous, yet the Roman dream of upward mobility, where a slave could buy their freedom, kept the gears of the empire turning for centuries. The crisis of the 3rd century. Between 235 and 284 AD, Rome almost collapsed. There were 26 barracks emperors, most murdered by their own troops. Civil war, plague, and hyperinflation tore the fabric of society. The empire survived, but the golden age was over. Hyperinflation. To pay the army, emperors mixed silver with cheap lead, destroying the value of the currency. The silver content of the denarius went to nearly 0%. Prices skyrocketed, trade stopped, and the middle class was wiped out. Diocletian and the Tetrarchy. Diocletian saved the empire by doing the unthinkable. He split it in 2. He created the Tetrarchy, 4 rulers for 4 regions. He realized one man could no longer govern the entire world. While it brought stability, it permanently divided the Latin West from the Greek East. Constantine and Christianity. Constantine claimed a vision of a cross before the Battle of the Milvian Bridge. He legalized Christianity with the Edict of Milan, changing the course of history as the faith went from a persecuted cult to the official religion of the state. Constantinople. Constantine moved the capital from Rome to Byzantium, renaming it Constantinople. It was strategically located and easier to defend. By moving the capital, he essentially abandoned the old city of Rome to its fate. The Great Migrations. In the late 4th century, a terrifying force from the east, Attila and the Huns, pushed Germanic tribes like the Visigoths and Vandals into Roman territory. These weren't just armies, they were nations of refugees, and the Roman borders finally snapped. The sack of Rome. In 410 AD, for the first time in 8 centuries, an enemy army entered the city of Rome. Alaric and the Visigoths looted the Eternal City for 3 days. The psychological blow was devastating. The world realized that Rome was no longer invincible. Attila the Hun. Attila, the scourge of God, united nomadic tribes and extorted massive amounts of gold from Rome. Though he was eventually turned back, he weakened the Roman military so severely that they could no longer stop the smaller tribes from taking over provinces. The fall of the West. The end came in 476 AD when a Germanic general named Odoacer deposed the last Western emperor, a teenage boy named Romulus Augustulus. Odoacer didn't want to destroy Rome, he wanted to lead it. The Western Empire was officially dead, replaced by Germanic kingdoms. The legacy of Rome. Rome fell, but it never died. Its language became the Romance languages of today. Its laws became the basis for Western justice. Its engineering became the blueprint for our cities. We live in the ruins of their ideas. Rome isn't just a place in history, it's the foundation of the modern world. While the Western Roman Empire flickered out in 476 AD, the story of Rome was far from over. In the East, West, the flame burned bright for another 1,000 years in a city called Constantinople. They didn't call themselves Byzantines, they called themselves Romans. They spoke Greek, but they lived under Roman law, maintained Roman bureaucracy, and kept the dream of the eternal empire alive. In the 6th century, a man named Justinian rose to the throne with a singular, obsessed vision, Renovatio Imperii, the restoration of the empire. He wanted it all back. His brilliant general, Belisarius, sailed west and actually managed to reconquer North Africa, Sicily, and the city of Rome itself. For a brief moment, it looked like the map of the world would be redrawn in Roman purple. But nature had other plans. A devastating plague, the first recorded bubonic plague in history, wiped out nearly half the population, and the dream of a reunited empire died with the millions who fell. The crisis of the 3rd century showed that you cannot build a permanent empire on debt and diluted currency. When Rome stopped being able to pay for its massive military and infrastructure, it started lying about the value of its money. Hyperinflation